All right, so you're ready to dive into the world of code editors.
Ready to help.
Awesome. I think picking the right code editor is kind of like
Yeah,
finding the perfect pair of shoes, you know?
definitely. It's got to be the right fit.
Exactly. And it sounds like you're checking out three big names, VS Code, Cursor, and then Windsurf. And what's really interesting to me is they all help you write code, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But each one has like its own sort of strengths. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like having the right tool for the right job.
Totally. You wouldn't use a hammer to, put in a screw.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's talk about VS Code, Visual Studio Code.
The big one.
The big one. I mean, it feels like everyone's using it these days. So what
Yeah.
makes it so popular?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's super versatile. Microsoft built it, but it runs on pretty much anything. Windows, Mac, Linux.
So it's accessible to pretty much everyone.
Exactly. But the real magic, I think, is how you can extend it. It's like almost like Legos for your coding setup. You can add stuff, take stuff away, customize it.
So when you say customize it, what does that actually look like?
Okay, so let's say you're working with a specific language like Python.
Okay.
Yeah. The VS Code Marketplace has these extensions, and you can just add them in. So all of a sudden, you've got syntax highlighting just for Python, code completion. You can even run and debug your code all inside VS Code.
Yeah.
Or let's say you're doing web stuff, visual design.
Right.
There's extensions that give you live previews of your HTML and CSS as you're typing.
Oh, that's cool. So it really becomes kind of like a tailored experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why people love it, because
Yeah.
it's not one size fits all.
Right.
You build it the way you work.
So it's like it helps you not just write code, but almost like think about code,
Totally. It's a whole environment built around your workflow.
That's cool. And then there's IntelliSense.
Oh, IntelliSense, yeah.
That's another thing that VS Code is really known for.
Yeah. So that's like, think of it like superpowered autocomplete.
Yeah.
But it's more than just suggesting words. It'll fill in entire function arguments.
Great.
Like if you're writing code and you're like, oh, I can't remember what the parameters are.
Right.
It'll just pop up with that information for you right there.
Ah, okay.
And even documentation as you type.
Really? Wow.
And it can help you navigate through really big, complicated code bases. So if you're working on like a massive project and you're like, ooh, where's that one function? IntelliSense can help you find it quickly.
So it's like almost like a co-pilot.
Yeah, it's like having a guide right there with you.
That's really cool. So it sounds like VS Code covers a lot of ground. Would you say it's a good place to start for someone who's just, learning to code?
Oh, yeah. It's great for beginners. I mean, it's also great for pros, too. It's really, really popular.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of tutorials, forums online, people helping each other out. So even if you're just starting out, you can get up to speed really quickly. And a lot of experienced developers, they love it, too, because of all that power and flexibility we were talking about.
Right. So it's like you can start with it, but then it grows with you as you.
Exactly. It doesn't hold you back.
That's cool. Now, what about someone who wants to maybe inject a little artificial intelligence into their coding experience?
Ah, yes.
That brings us to Cursor, which is the next editor we're going to be talking about.
This is where things get really interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it basically takes VS Code and adds an AI.
Yeah. It uses these things called GPT models from OpenAI, the same tech behind, ChatGPT.
Yeah, right. I know ChatGPT, but how does that, ChatGPT can write poems, it can have these weird conversations.
You can do all sorts of things, yeah.
How does that help you write code?
So imagine you're working on this really tricky function, and you just can't quite figure out the logic. Instead of like banging your head against the wall or digging through documentation for hours.
Yeah, which I've definitely done.
Oh, we all have. You can actually just like in plain English, tell Cursor what you want to achieve.
Right.
And the AI will try to just generate the whole code block for you.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. Like complete with comments and error handling, all that stuff.
So it's like having a coding buddy.
Yeah, it's like having an expert on call 24/7.
That's wild. Now, I gotta ask though, isn't that kind of like cheating?
No. It's not about replacing your skills, it's about augmenting them, right? It's like it's taking care of those moments where you get stuck or you have writer's block. We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And it frees you up to focus on the bigger picture. The creative stuff, the strategy, the problem solving.
Right.
Not just the nitty-gritty details of writing every single line.
So it's working smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Using the AI to kind of do that heavy lifting.
Now, what about code quality, though? Can AI really write code that's as good as, a human?
Well, the AI behind Cursor It was trained on a massive amount of code,
Right.
really high quality code.
Yeah.
So it's learned to write code that's not just functional, but it's also well structured, readable.
Right.
But what really sets it apart is that it has what's called code base awareness. So instead of just looking at the file you're currently working on, it actually analyzes your entire project
Oh, wow.
to understand like the context of what you're doing.
It's not giving you some generic, piece of code.
Right. It's tailoring its suggestions to fit how you code and what you're building.
It's learning your style.
Exactly. And over time, the more you use it, the better it gets at understanding your preferences.
Yeah.
It's like having an apprentice who's constantly learning from you.
Oh, that's cool. So, okay, I'm sold on the idea. But one thing that always kind of creeps me out a little bit when it comes to AI is privacy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Is all my code, like, going up to the clouds somewhere?
That's a valid concern. The good news is, with Cursor, you have a choice. You can use the cloud-based AI, which is super convenient, but they also offer a local model. So it runs entirely offline. Everything stays on your computer.
So you can choose based on your, comfort level.
Exactly. And Cursor, it's pretty new, but it's developing really fast. I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes even more powerful than some of the existing tools out there like GitHub Copilot,
Yeah.
Wow,
okay. So we've got VS Code, customizable. Everybody loves it. Cursor, AI-powered, pushing the boundaries.
Right.
But what if coding wasn't just a solo thing?
Yeah.
What if it was more about teamwork, especially now with so many people working remotely?
Totally.
And that's where I think Windsurf comes in, right? It offers a totally different way to think about coding.
Absolutely. Windsurf is all about coding together in the cloud. It's web-based, so you don't even have to install anything on your computer. You can use it on pretty much any device, anywhere you have an internet connection.
So it's like Google Docs, but for code.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone jumps into the same project and you're working on it at the same time. You can see each other's changes, like right as they happen.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Especially for remote teams. You don't have to worry about sending files back and forth or, figuring out who changed what.
Exactly. And it goes even further.
Oh.
They built in video chat, text chat.
Right in the editor.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's like you're all in the same room, even if you're miles apart.
So it's almost less like a code editor and more like a complete, work environment,
It's like that virtual coding war room, everybody on the same page.
That's really cool. Okay, so Windsurf, it's all about that collaboration, but it's not just about, working together. It's still got all the important stuff like AI and version control, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Powerful AI features, just like we talked about with Cursor, and built-in Git integration so you can keep track of all your changes.
Nice. Now, there's got to be a trade-off somewhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, since it's all in the cloud, you got to have a solid internet connection.
Right.
So if you're often offline or somewhere with spotty internet,
Right.
it might not be the best fit.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like any cloud-based tool.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But for teams that are constantly online working together, it sounds like it would be amazing. So we've got VS Code, the customizable powerhouse, Cursor, the AI Trailblazer, and then Windsurf for those collaborative cloud projects. How do we even begin to choose between these?
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
The good news is there's no wrong answer. It really comes down to what you need and what you like.
Okay, so let's say I'm a solo developer. I like to tinker. I want flexibility. I'm thinking VS Code seems like a good starting point.
Yeah. VS Code's super solid. And because it's open source and has such a big community, you'll always have support. If you run into a problem or you want to learn something new, there's probably already a tutorial or a forum post out there.
Like a huge knowledge base.
Exactly. And don't forget about all those extensions. It's like having a toolbox full of possibilities. You can really make VS Code your own.
So it's almost like having a blank canvas and you can kind of create your own perfect setup.
You got it.
Now, let's say, all right, I'm comfortable with VS Code, but I really want to see what this AI stuff is all about. Should I jump ship and go to Cursor?
If you're curious about AI and you want to see how it can make you a better coder, then yeah, Cursors is definitely worth checking out. That ability to generate code, help you refactor, even help you debug, it can be a game changer.
So it takes everything you love about VS Code and then adds AI on top of it.
Exactly. It's like leveling up, taking things to the next level.
That's cool. Okay, last scenario. What if you're all about teamwork? You live in the cloud. Windsurf seems like the obvious choice there.
If you're on a team, especially if you're working remotely, Windsurf is a game changer. I mean, that real-time collaboration, it's just something else. It can totally transform how teams work together.
So it's almost like taking that feeling of being in the same room, even if you're not, and making that possible for coding.
Yeah. It's like breaking down those barriers of distance and time zones. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. So we've got a good feel for the strengths of each one. And I think it really comes down to, like you said, your own personal preferences and how you like to code. But one thing I've always found fascinating about code editors is how they're constantly changing.
Oh, yeah. It's a fast-moving world. Always something new coming out.
So before we dive into helping our listener choose the right editor, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the future of coding? With AI becoming more and more prevalent, how do you see the relationship between developers and their tools evolving?
That's a great question. I think we're just at the beginning of what AI can do for software development. Imagine a world where AI can not only generate code, but it can actually test it, debug it, even deploy it automatically.
Whoa.
Yeah. Developers might become more like architects, designing the big picture and letting AI handle the nuts and bolts.
So instead of writing code line by line, we're designing systems at a much higher level.
Exactly. But even then, you'll still need that human creativity, that ingenuity, that problem-solving ability. Because AI can help automate the mundane stuff, but it's our human spark that's going to drive those really innovative breakthroughs.
I love that. It's not about AI replacing developers. It's about AI empowering developers to do even greater things.
Exactly. And I think the developers who are going to thrive in this future are the ones who embrace these new tools, constantly learning, constantly adapting, and never losing that human touch.
Well said. So we've got a lot to think about as we help our listener choose the right code editor.
Yeah, a lot of great options out there.
But before we do that, let's take a quick break and come back refreshed and ready to guide them to the perfect choice.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay, so we're back and ready to play matchmaker.
Right.
You and your code editor soulmate, we got to find the perfect fit.
I love that. So let's paint a picture here. We've got our listener. They're a freelance web developer, mostly working with JavaScript. They love the idea of a really smooth workflow. What would you recommend they look into?
For a JavaScript freelancer, I mean, VS Code is a great place to start. It just has amazing support for JavaScript right out of the box.
Yeah.
Syntax highlighting, code completion that really understands JavaScript. You've got debugging tools built in.
It's all right there.
It's all right there, yeah.
And the VS Code community is so big, especially for web development, that I imagine there's tons of extensions specifically for JavaScript.
Oh, yeah, tons. Like if you're using React or Angular or Vue.js, any of the popular frameworks, there are extensions for those. There's linters, formatters, testing tools. It can really supercharge your JavaScript workflow.
So you can really fine-tune it to exactly how you work.
Exactly. And since we're talking about a freelancer, they're probably juggling multiple projects, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
VS Code has this great feature called workspaces, where you can basically have different setups for different projects.
So you're not mixing everything together.
Yeah. It keeps everything nice and organized, and you can switch between projects really easily.
So it sounds like VS Code is ticking a lot of boxes for our freelance web dev. But let's switch gears a little bit. What if our listener is a data scientist?
Okay.
They're working with machine learning, big data sets, constantly experimenting with algorithms. Would VS Code still be a good fit there?
It could be. I mean, VS Code has solid support for Python, which is really popular for data science.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of extensions for data science workflows. You've got stuff for visualization, interactive notebooks, integration with libraries like NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn.
All the big ones, yeah.
All the big ones, yeah.
So it can handle the technical side of things, but what about the AI part? Would an editor like Cursor offer any advantages in that kind of scenario?
Absolutely. For a data scientist, Cursor's AI features could be really powerful. Imagine being able to, describe the machine learning model you want to build.
Okay.
In just plain English. And Cursor goes, okay, here's the code. It does the data pre-processing, the training, the evaluation.
Wow.
You could save so much time.
So you can focus on the actual data.
Exactly. The insights, the analysis, all that good stuff.
Now, I know Cursor can write the code, but can AI actually help a data scientist understand their data better?
That's where it gets really cool. You know how we talked about code base awareness?
Yeah.
Well, that applies to data too. Cursor can analyze your data files, your machine learning models, and it can actually start to give you insights and suggestions.
Oh, way.
Yeah. It might point out patterns you didn't notice, suggest different algorithms to try, or even warn you about potential biases in your model.
So it's like having a second pair of eyes on your data.
Yeah. It's like a research partner, but it's AI.
That's wild. Okay, so we've talked about VS Code, Cursor, how they could be great for our freelance web dev and our data scientists. Let's throw another hypothetical listener into the mix here.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine a team of software engineers, big, complex project, and they're all over the world, different time zones. Where does Windsurf fit into this picture?
That's where Windsurf really comes into its own. For a team like that, especially with the remote aspect, real-time collaboration is essential.
Right.
And Windsurf just nails it.
Yeah.
You can seamlessly go from pair programming with someone, on the other side of the planet to debugging as a team, all in the same environment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No more emailing files back and forth.
No more merge conflicts.
Trying to figure out who changed what.
Exactly. And because Windsurf has those built-in communication tools like video chat, text chat.
Right there in the editor.
It's like you're all in the same virtual office, working side by side, even though you're not physically together.
So it's like taking that whiteboard, that collaborative brainstorming experience, and bringing it into the code.
Totally. It breaks down those walls,
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful stuff.
Okay, so I'm seeing a pattern here. It seems like the best code editor really depends on your work style and, who you're working with. Absolutely.
Hardware developer, maybe it comes down to personal preference, how much AI you want.
Right.
But for teams, those collaborative features, like what Windsurf offers, that could be huge.
Oh, yeah. It can be a game changer for teams.
So how does our listener actually make the choice? What are some things they should be thinking about when they're evaluating these editors?
Well, the first thing is to really think about the projects you work on, the languages you use the most.
Right.
Because each editor has its strengths and weaknesses.
Like if you're doing a lot of JavaScript, VS Code is probably a good bet.
Exactly. But if you're doing Python, maybe Cursor with its AI features makes more sense.
Okay, so that's the technical side. But what about the more, personal side of things?
Yeah. So think about your workflow. How do you like to work? Do you want a really customizable environment like VS Code? Or do you prefer something simpler, more AI-driven like Cursor? Do you need that real-time collaboration, the cloud-based accessibility of Windsurf?
It's about finding the tool that fits your brain. Yeah, exactly. Find the tool that feels right, that helps you be more productive.
And at the end of the day, the best way to choose is to actually try them out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Most of these editors have free trials or community editions you can download.
Right, so you can kick the tires.
Kick the tires, see how they feel.
See what it's like to actually use them.
Play around with them.
Okay, let's go one step further.
Okay.
Our listener has narrowed it down to 2 editors.
Okay.
They're having trouble making that final decision.
It's a tough choice.
What are some questions they can ask themselves to kind of, help them make that final call?
Yeah, some good questions to ponder. First, just think about the interface.
Yeah.
Which one feels more intuitive, more enjoyable to use? You're going to be spending a lot of time with this thing. Then think about language support. Which one has the best support for the specific languages, frameworks you use? And then, does it fit with your workflow?
Yeah.
Does it help you be more productive? And I think most importantly, which one makes you more excited to code?
That's a good one.
Yeah. You want to feel inspired, empowered by the tools you use.
It's got to feel good.
Exactly.
So it's not just about the features. It's about finding that editor that, speaks to you as a developer.
Absolutely. It should feel like an extension of your own creativity. And, with all the innovation happening in software development, I bet there will be even more amazing editors and tools coming out in the future.
Oh, for sure. It's constantly changing.
It's an exciting time to be a developer.
Yeah, it really is. So I think we've had a fantastic deep dive into the world of code editors.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We've explored VS Code, the customizable all-rounder, Cursor with its AI magic, and Windsurf, the king of collaboration.
The champion of the cloud.
But at the end of the day, the best code editor is the one that fits you best.
You got it. Find what works for you, explore your options, and choose the one that helps you do your best work.
And as you continue your coding journey, remember to stay curious, keep learning, embrace new technologies.
The world of software development is always moving forward. There's always something new to learn.
Well said. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one creating the next amazing code editor.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. All right, so on that note, I want to thank you, our amazing listener, for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been fun.
I hope you've gained some valuable insights, discovered some new tools, and that you feel inspired to continue your coding adventures. Until next time, happy coding. It's amazing how much the world of code editors has changed.
Oh, yeah.
Even just in the last few years.
Definitely.
It feels like we're really at a turning point in how we think about software development.
I agree. AI and cloud computing.
Right.
They're totally reshaping how we write code, how we work together.
It's not just about the tools themselves. It's
But
about the whole process,
Yeah, it's becoming way more collaborative, more intuitive,
Yeah.
and I'd even say more fun.
Fun is a good word
Yeah.
because when the tools get out of the way,
Yeah.
you can actually focus on the creative stuff, the problem solving, the joy of actually bringing ideas to life.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so exciting about where code editors are headed.
Yeah.
They're not just about efficiency anymore. They're becoming more human-centered.
Human-centered, yeah.
They're designed to boost our abilities and unleash our creativity.
That's really cool. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to get your take on this. With all these amazing advancements,
Yeah.
what skills do you think are going to be essential for developers in the future? Like, how do we prepare for this constantly changing landscape?
That's a great question. I mean, technical skills will always be important,
Of course.
but I think skills like adaptability, problem solving, communication, those are going to be even more crucial as we move forward.
Makes sense. AI is going to handle more of those routine tasks.
Right.
So we've got to be ready to learn new tools, new workflows.
Exactly. And coding is becoming more and more collaborative.
Yeah.
So being able to communicate effectively, to work well in teams,
That's going to be huge.
huge. And of course, there's problem solving.
Right.
That's always at the heart of software development. AI can help us find solutions, but it's our human ingenuity.
Our creativity.
Yeah, our critical thinking. That's going to drive real innovation.
It's not about us versus the machines, right?
No, it's about working with them.
Working with them.
Using AI to make us better at what we do.
I like that. So it's a call to action for all of us in tech.
Mhm.
To stay curious, to keep learning, to never stop exploring.
And to remember that human element in all of this.
Exactly. Well, it's been awesome exploring the world of code editors with you
It has been fun.
and envisioning what the future holds.
A lot to look forward to.
To our amazing listener, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
We hope you've learned a ton, discovered some new tools, and feel inspired to keep coding.
Keep creating.
Until next time, happy coding!